Hi everybody, welcome to yet another video. So today we're doing one of our little comparison videos, which I often do. For me, it's always the best way of seeing which gun is better than the other, because everything's fresh in your mind and everything's exactly the same. So for those that don't know, I'll quickly introduce myself. I normally paint motorbike stuff, but I keep a few panels and a few other bits and bobs that I practice on to just for the videos, really, to show you, give you an idea of how these guns perform, and then I can tell you. It's not based obviously just on spraying these two panels. Both of these guns, the Finer Core, I've probably had about 3.5 years, and the Neptune I've probably had about 2.5 years. So it's not just purely based on two panels, but it's just a medium for me to actually show you something while I talk about the guns, basically. So we got the Meiji Finer Core and we've got the Devilbiss Neptune. Now both of these were originally Japan and Asia only. That's changed a fair bit, particularly with the Meiji brand, because they've started off importing into different countries with a proper distributor. I'm based in the UK, and one of those distributors, authorised distributors in the UK, or the only authorised distributor in the UK, is a company called BSS, Beyond the Surface Solutions. So they actually import the Meiji brand officially into the UK now, which it makes it easier for people in the UK who are VAT registered, etc., to buy into the brand, get some after sales service, and all locally. The traditional body shop supply chain, effectively. Now I get mine, or I bought mine from Painting Tools Japan. This is before BSS took the distributorship over. So I'll put a link in the description to both places and to the proper UK site if you want to check that out. So with the Meiji Finer Core that we'll be using first, what you get is a extremely well built spray gun, very compact, so it's physically quite small. It's actually more the size of a mini gun than a full-size spray gun, but it has the performance and packs the punch of a full-size gun. So you do get more than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense. As I've said before, and people that watch the channel will know, that I regard Meiji as probably the best made and engineered spray gun there is. That's not because they're paying me to say it, because I've bought all the guns that I use from them. But their engineering quality is very, very good. I mean, generally, the Japanese engineering quality is very, very good anyway. But they're certainly a step above Iwata as far as engineering qualities go. You do get problems with them. I haven't had any problems with any of mine, apart from one I bought recently, which is was a Meiji Finer Force, which is their MIDI type gun. And there was an air leak on it, which I got fixed reasonably quickly, but it does show that even the best engineered stuff does have problems. But as far as the ability of the gun goes, it's supremely fine atomization. It really is good. Whether it's quite got the edge that some of the split tip guns, and I say some of the split tip guns, but not all of the split tip guns, have a bit of an edge sometimes on atomization, but it really doesn't seem to be lacking in any department. You can get terrific finishes with it, and it's a reasonably fast gun given the physical size. One of the things that I find, because I tend to do, I think I said at the start of the video, I tend to do motorcycle parts and things like that. There's a lot of moving about with bike parts, because they're not just sort of like a slab side or a roof or a bonnet. There's a lot of moving about to get into different parts. I realise if you're doing door shuts and things like that, it's also a bit of moving about, but there's quite a lot of intricate parts with bike stuff. So the ability to be able to manoeuvre a gun around easily is actually a big tick point. And that's something that this actually does really well, and that's because it's physically quite small, as I've said, but it's also quite light, well, very light really. The Meiji, I put it on the scales, the Meiji weighs 340 grams, which for those still on imperial scales is about 12 ounces. So it's relatively light for a gun that's giving you the performance of a full-size gun. So it makes it supremely manoeuvrable. So it really is a class act. Is it Luma? I think it's Luma. They normally make what I call them headlights for spray guns. They actually have one of these guns. It's called the Exodus, but it is exactly the same gun. They make these in 1.3 and they make it in 1.5. They also make it in HVLP in the same two sizes. So there's 4 different guns effectively in the range. How they vary to make a difference between HVLP and standard, because it's just called literally 1.3 or 1.5. There's nothing after the name. And then you just ask for 1.3 or 1.5 HVLP for the HVLP version. How they differ is there's a baffle behind the tip. Now, I know a couple of people have been put off when they see a baffle, but it really is just an air distribution device. It just moves air around, so it's not really wearable. It's plastic. It's relatively well made, and it needs to go on a certain way. But you need to change that for HVLP and the cap. The tip is the same and the needle is the same. So it is possible to buy one and change it to the other. The other difference is that the thread on the HVLP gun, I hope I get this the right way round, it's either the thread on the HVLP gun or the thread on the standard gun is actually finer. So the adjustments are actually, you just get more turns of the fluid adjuster. It's just a finer pitch thread, effectively. So that's the differences between the two. But the body is exactly the same. But as I say, you do get a supremely well-engineered gun for relatively little money. They're not particularly expensive, considering how good they are. Now, the other gun in this comparison, which we're getting onto now, is the Devilbiss Neptune. Now, one of the things you first notice about the Devilbiss Neptune is the fact that it is a full-size, physically a full-size gun. I will just say apologies here. I actually forgot. Normally I will spray one panel, do the footage that you just saw. It's a close-up of the gun, really, because people like to see a close-up of the gun. And then I'll do the next panel and do the finishing parts of the video effectively before I do the outside shots. And I forgot, so I actually did it afterwards. I did the close-up of the gun afterwards, which is why you see 2 lots of spray out, and then we go to starting the Devilbiss Neptune. So apologies for that, but these things do happen sometimes. You do, obviously you've got other things to do as well, and you just forget things, and anyway, yeah, we are where we are. So looking at the Devilbiss Neptune, as I say, it's a full-size gun, but it feels very, very light, but it's actually a little bit heavier, or reasonable bit heavier than the Meiji. And that's purely down to the fact that it's physically a fair bit bigger. It's about the same size as a Tecna GTI Pro Lite. So it feels full size in your hand, but you've still got the flickability and movability around. For example, it weighed, I put it on the scales, and it weighed 379 grams, which is 13.3 ounces. Now, you compare that to, say, a SATA X5500, which is a fairly hefty gun, and you're looking at, for the SATA, you're looking at 540 grams or 21 ounces. So it's a good, what is that? Good 7 or 8 ounces less. Really noticeable when you're using it. And again, it has that ability to be, or it aids that ability to flick it around. Both of these guns actually take the same they have the same screw thread, which is a 3/8 BSP screw thread for the cup or the PPS adapter, whatever you want to get. So if you've already got a Devilbiss Technopro Lite, which a lot of people have, your accessories, etc., will fit straight onto this gun because it's exactly the same thread. You will see me microwaving my clear coat here. I will just put a quick disclaimer. Those that watch the channel know that I do it quite regularly. It does help it flow out and go off quicker, but I'm sure it's not a safe thing to do, so I will just put a disclaimer saying please do not do this, but it is something I do. And for those that are interested in what I do, it's about 10 seconds per 100 millilitres, and it works really well. I use it now with primer and with base coat, but as I say, it's not recommended, I'm sure. Yeah, so going back to the lightness of both of these guns, as I said, are supremely light. Performance-wise, it's really, really difficult to split them. If I had to choose one, I would probably choose the Finer Core, and I think that's mainly because it's a little bit lighter, and I like the fact that it's quite a small gun with a big punch. I also like the fact with the Finer Core, because the front of it is physically smaller. If you're trying to get into smaller areas, you can actually get the gun in there. It may sound like a small point, but the Neptune has got quite a big head on it, about the same as a Techno GTI Pro Lite. Whereas the little Meiji really does allow you to get into places that you maybe can't with the larger cap. That's if you know it's recesses and things like that. And again, that's more bike parts and frames and things like that you maybe won't encounter so much on vehicles, unless you're doing like inside the engine bays and things like that. You may well find that. But yeah, performance-wise, as I say, it's really difficult to split either of these two, and I would just give it give it to the Finer Core because it just feels a little bit more flickable and more manoeuvrable, which is one of the reasons I think you would buy these guns, because they are a bit different to the mainstay. You know, you get something like a Segola. You grab hold of it and you think, oh, this is well made, and that's because your mind is playing a trick on you. Well, they are actually well made, so it's not a trick essentially, but your mind is saying this is big, this is heavy, this must be well made. It's not always true. With the Neptune, it's got like which I actually quite like. It's got like it's like well, I would say Teflon non-stick cover on it. It doesn't seem anodized. It seems effectively like a plastic coating on it, but it's very non-stick, so it's supremely easy to clean and actually quite fun to watch, because when you put thinners on it, it's sort of the thinners bubble. You know, like when you've washed and waxed a car, and then you maybe, I don't know, you get a rain shower, you spray a bit of water on it or something, and you get beading on the wax. That's exactly what happens to any thinners or paint that you've got on these guns. It really does help to keep the gun clean. The internals are coated, which you would expect, because it's magnesium. You have to be very careful in the fact that obviously water and things like that, again with aluminium, it can corrode. I've seen SATAs that are, well, people have sent me pictures of SATAs that are probably about 5 years old, 4 years old, used regularly for water-based products, and they literally start to get eaten away to the extent that the tip won't seal, because where the fluid comes in, it's actually eating the aluminium away. So these are very well coated, and as far as the actual how well these are made, this Devilbiss is actually better made, in my opinion. I am British, but it's better made than the guns we get in the UK, made by Devilbiss UK, because this is actually made in Japan. So it's supreme build quality. Both of these have got supreme build quality compared to the norm that you actually get. So certainly highly recommended. If you want something a little bit different, that's not the Iwata, the SATA, the Devilbiss type gun, capable of really good finishes. I would say that the Neptune is probably a little bit slower than the Finer Core, which is funny because, as I said, it is bigger and the head is bigger. You can see it does actually take a little bit longer to put on. The fans, as you can see here, are actually quite different. Much more of a smaller tulip pattern than Neptune, which you would think would aid its ability with clear coat, but it actually works better, I find, for base coat. It wets up nice for base coat, but just as usable for clear coat. And here's the two final panels. The outside panels, looking at my notes, it was actually quite cold when I did. It was only 11 degrees Celsius. So you can't go mad, and it really is more difficult to get a good finish in the cold, as anybody will realise, than it is in the warm. But we done reasonably okay. The outside shots, I've got outside shots in the shade here 2 days later. So these are 2 days after it was done. The reason we do that is just to let it die back slightly, so that it's looking how it would represent afterwards rather than straight away, because straight away it does look better anyway. This is a shot I was waiting for in the sun. I was trying to catch the effect of this paint, which the camera really doesn't do, because this is a really nice colour. It's actually a custom colour, really nice colour, and it's not quite catching it, but this was 3 days later, so it gives you an idea of how it keeps its gloss level. But yeah, I would be really hard to split them. If I had to give a win to anything here, I think I would the Finer Core, and that's just because it's more manoeuvrable really, rather than better performance. But both of them are supremely well made, which I like. Having an engineering background, I really like the fact that they're so well made. Anyway guys, thanks as always for watching the videos and listening to me ramble on. It really is appreciated, and if you haven't subscribed, maybe think about giving us a subscription and a thumbs up, and that just helps bump us up YouTube's rankings a little bit, when they're promoting videos, etc. And it just helps get the channel moving along. Anyway, as I say, thanks for watching as always guys. You keep watching them and I'll keep making them. Cheers, bye bye.